Welcome to the latest edition of Rugby Unfiltered. My name is Jan de Koning, and with me, as always, Eugene Eloff. We have to take the man of the moment, Andre Esterhuizen, the ultimate hybrid player that I've seen. We've seen players like New Zealand's got a couple of forwards and can play in the back line. We've seen Italy do it. We've seen England do it. But we haven't seen, Rassie, as usual, have this ability to find something different. And he found in Andre Esterhuizen a centre, and a very good centre, who can now play forward. He can play flank. And he did so very well. He scored a maul try this past weekend. But it's interesting to see how it came about. And I mean, Tony Brown, who spoke ahead of the Italian game, explained it very nicely, exactly how Andre's move from purely a centre came about, and now he is a hybrid player that can run over people in midfield and run around people or score maul tries. And for me, the most interesting was Marco van Staden when he spoke about how they're going to turn Andre into a proper forward. But I think Loffie, you had some players, utility players. You must have had some really interesting players that you use as hybrids.
Yeah, I think sometimes the situation forces you into a decision you have to make that is very different. And that's one thing of Rossie's character as a coach. He is not afraid to take risks and try things. And I can understand why he made the move. For many, many years, a lot of teams have been using backs as forwards and sometimes vice versa. But most of it was because of a problem that you had with injuries. I had the same in Australia when I had to play Todd Clever from the USA at wing, who was a flanker, and I had to play our hooker at flank. So it's possible. But I think we can claim it that we are the first country that call this player a hybrid, which is like electric and normal petrol. I think the characteristics of Andre himself is big, he's physical, he's strong, and he has a presence. And I think that's what Rassie saw. The way he utilizes him is exactly to get that out of him. And I think he's also got a big influence on the pack when he goes down there. In the beginning, it was a joke, but now he sort of has an important role to play there. And I think it's also given him a fresh breath of air to play in a position where he can express himself.
Very much so. You said hybrid, petrol and electric. I think he goes a step further. He can be electric, as he is sometimes in midfield. He can be petrol when he's smooth, and he can be diesel if he wants to be. So, but I think let's listen to what Tony Brown had to say, and then Marco van Staden had the ultimate chirp for me. I think that's the best part of this interview.
Yeah, well, what started out as a little bit of an experiment with Andre, trying to get him to be able to play loose forward and inside centre, has become a bit of a weapon for us, and probably getting the red card and having Andre on the bench, I don't know if we could have asked for a better impact player who, in that situation, who could go to the mauls, go to the scrums, and then defend at inside centre when France had the ball. So he's getting better and better as we get through the test match year.
And I think Andre is definitely a forward, genuine forward now. I think against Japan he scored with the forwards around the corner, and now he scored off a maul. We just have to get his ears ugly, and then he will be a proper forward.
Yes, that's a typical remark of a guy who feels threatened when his position is at stake. It was actually so funny, but I have to remind Marco that those cauliflower ears are actually the front row, it's not the flankers.
A few locks have some cauliflower ears as well. But yeah, you're right. I agree. Mostly props that have cauliflower ears. So maybe they want to convert Andre into a prop. A guy who can scrum or hooker even. We've seen Dion Fourie move from flank to hooker. So maybe Andre can go the same route. Maybe when we got a shortage of hookers in the next World Cup, Andre can scrum down the middle of the front row. Yes, Eugene, on that note, definitely worth listening to what Andre said about himself, or the way they prepare for this role, and how they decide in the middle of the game what happens, or when it changes, how they decide. But let's listen. Andre explains it better.
Andre, a lot of hype going into this game. You guys expected an emotional French team. Was it everything you expected going into this match?
Yeah, I think it was obviously a very much anticipated game. I think the boys knew the whole week what's really behind this match. But for us as a Springbok team, we just went through as a normal match as any other week. You can't play a full game on emotion. So for us, we're sticking to the processes, being physically dominant, and just taking it through to 80 minutes.
A lot was said about the impact the bench made. You came on, as well as one of those players. Just how big was that impact, and how big was that 23-man effort today?
Yeah, I think when all the cards were down, when we got the red card, the boys made good plans. We spoke half time. We said what we want to do. We want to stay on top of them. Want to dominate them physically. We made plans and line out scrums, etc. to be able to do that. And I think the boys really pulled together, and we stuck together, and we just executed the plan perfectly.
2 out of 2 now on this tour, 5-match tour. Italy next week. Have you guys played them obviously earlier in the year? Just looking at that game, how are you guys feeling?
I think Italy is a very unpredictable team. It's always a tough game against them. We played them earlier this year, so I think we've got good knowledge of them. But I mean, this weekend they won Australia, so it's going to be another tough test. We've got 5 big tests this tour, 2 down, and we have to work hard, back to the drawing board on Monday, and we can expect another big test next week in Italy.
And then just for you, being the hybrid, do you know when you're going on as centre and when you're going on, as a flanker?
Yeah, I think we speak about it before the game quite a bit, especially, today plans have changed a bit, normally before the game we know more or less, am I covering more loose forward, covering more centre, whatever happens in the game. The thing is, you never know what happened with a game like today. It can always change, but the good thing is we prepare for both situations.
I think let's quickly recap that France game. I think I've had so many people ask me about, what happened and why this French team. The fact that they've had a couple of injuries, we've also had some injuries. I mean, we didn't have Ox and stuff, so injuries happen. The most important thing is that they came at us in that first half. Those first 30 minutes, they really, I wouldn't say bullied us, but they physically dominated us. And then the box settled down, and in the second half, we dominated. And I think you will understand this, and maybe you can explain it better, that a team that doesn't panic is a team that knows how to win, that's been in a dark, deep pit so often that they just don't panic and they just calm down. And even when you play it down, you somehow seem to find the resolve to get over that hurdle.
Yes, I knew the French were coming out blazing, and there was a lot of, as we spoke in the previous our discussions, that there was a lot of emotional hype around the game, but they really came out clinical and speeded up the game, and they, for 70% of the game, they dominated possession and territory. And the one thing is, if you keep on attacking and you can't put on points the whole time, so they had us, but they didn't knock us out. They had us on the ropes, but they did not knock us out, Jan. And what you said so rightfully, our team has got so much confidence. It's like slow poison. It just keeps on. You keep them out. You keep the score low, and then I know we're going to discuss Lewis later, but I will tell you why I think where the game changed. When you're on the field and all of a sudden you are 14, the whole dynamics of the game changed. And to me, our 14 guys there got together and decided we're not going to lose this game, and they played from there on very, very much for each other and lifted the game. And we actually started scoring points in the last 12, 14 minutes of the game. And the French were out on their feet. They had no answer for what we were throwing. And then, of course, I don't know what we're going to call them in the future, but with our young players. And I mean, it's so great to see our scrum offs sniping and scoring. Both of them, I think, are world class. And once Sasha and those guys with the feet got going, it was the end of the story. And it was it was a fantastic win for the Boks, and really, really, I think they can congratulate themselves on this.
Yeah. I want to, and I agree with you. The one thing that's very important is what's called slow poison, and people don't understand that. That's sapping the energy, and you can keep up and you can keep that level. All Blacks were good at it for so long, and then they speed up the games, they up the tempo in that last 20 minutes, and that's where the Springboks are at the moment. And they're bringing, like you say, the younger players, and we're beginning to find a better balance in terms of first grinding and then towards the end of the last 20 minutes killing people off. I think if we look forward to Italy, that's the next game, and for me, I'm almost more scared of this game. We had such a big high now against France, and the risk is always, and Jean, you've been there, when you have such a good win, the ability to then get up for a lesser team the next week is a big challenge.
Yeah, Jan, I want to take one step back as well, and just also the one word we forgot about our team is we got belief. If a team has belief, it's just very difficult to break that chain. And going into Italy, who I thought had a fantastic game against the Aussies, I guess the Aussies and the French are both in a position now where their coaches feel they have to go back to the drawing board. What went wrong? But we are professional now, and I believe some of the players that have been on the bench and just touring are going to get the opportunity to play. And you know what, Jan? For them, it's an opportunity to put their hands up to say, "Listen, I need to be in this top starting lineup." So, I don't think we're going to take our foot off the petrol. And the second thing is, if you analyze Italy, they were playing so well. They speeded the game up. They played it in open spaces and quick fade. Their ruck speed was very quick. So I don't think we're going to underestimate them. The big thing, they're playing Italy with that passionate people there. It's so fantastic to see teams like that coming up and competing against strong world teams.
I agree. World Rugby needs more teams like that can beat the big guns, that can knock the big guns over. I think we've got a starting point because we played them twice in July, and there we also ground them down. They were they didn't last as long as the French, and wasn't as close as the French, and they were physically demoralized in the last 20 minutes. So our scores went in the 40 region, past 40, and so that to me says we should win by 15 to 20 points, all things given. So if the guys are mentally switched on, which we believe they will be, we think Rassie has a way, but we know sometimes players look fine, and that's what I want to chat to you about. How do you see, when you're in the dressing room before a game like this, how do you see, or when do you realize that something is amiss, and how do you solve that?
Yeah, that's the spirit in the team. When you're on your bus to the field, you can already sense when there's a calmness, when there's a sense of urgency, when there's a looseness, and a coach picks it up. And when you go into the cloakroom, you just grab the guys together. But Jan, again, coming back to this side, they've got composure. And I don't believe that is going to be a problem. I think these guys know how important it is for them also to be clinical. The whole approach, Jan, whether you play a small team or a big team, your approach as a coach is not different. Your preparation of the week is not different. Your analyzing of the oppositions is not different. So everything off the field in terms of coaching and management are the same. And as I said, they are humans, but they're professional rugby players, and they know the implications should they not arrive on the day. And the people can say what they want. It is in Italy. It is a home ground. It is so, the spirit of the people, but as the four lines are the same, you have to go out and play. I believe we're going to dominate them from the beginning.
I have to agree with you, Eugene, that we have the potential to blow them away again. But it's also heartening to listen to Tony Brown, that Kiwi that's now a Springbok coach. We just love our Kiwis in South Africa. But Tony Brown said, or at least he struck the right notes, and when he spoke about how they approach Italy, and he said what you said now, that they won't underestimate Italy. So let's listen to Tony, and then we'll have a chat again afterwards. But let's listen to what Tony had to say about the game against Italy.
Oh no, Italy's a physical side. They do play different to France. They they pose different challenges with ball in hand. They're very much coached like an Argentinian team, and you know Argentina like to throw the ball around, so Italy are very similar. Their game has improved a hell of a lot over the last couple of years, and they're a dangerous side, so we've got to make sure that we understand their threats and, you know, prepare as well as we can for them.
Yes, you can hear Tony is a cunning, good, well-educated coach. In terms of what he does on the field, there's definitely a difference in our attacking structure, but he also knows exactly what to say to the media, not to give away too much, and also to sort of satisfy our own people that they are well prepared for this game. But give him credit. Tony has brought something to our attacking structure, and I think those young players, especially the backline players, can learn a lot from him.
Eugene, before we move on to the other games, let's just have a quick look and a chat about the team. How do you feel this team might look? We know it's being announced later in the week, but how do you feel this team might look?
Yeah, and I think one interesting aspect is, and there's a lot of speculation about the B team or the team that's going to play. It's very difficult to say who's the A team and the B team, but currently I think that most of the guys that sat on the bench and that sat on the pavilion watching the games, the guys that are not injured, like Pollard and them, are going to get an opportunity to play. Rossi and the selectors will definitely not take high risk. They will pick combinations. So the team has a structure to start, to get our set phases going, and that the current momentum that the team has is not lost. But I can tell you now that those players that are getting their opportunities, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to play to stake their claim to be part of the starting lineup or in the starting 23.
Yeah, one thing I have to agree with you, Eugene, is Russia is also the type of guy, and we know that he does this. He would have said to the guys before the France game already, these are the guys that play this week. Those are the guys that we will only find out later in the week, but they know, the team already knows. And if you have access to their private training sessions, the guys the photographers will tell you who's on the field. And you know, you train with that team early in the week. Your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday training sessions is when your run-on team are the guys training. So, yeah, I agree with you. There's going to be a very different team, but still a very powerful team. We've got almost 3 teams of equal strength. So, yeah, it won't be much different. The names will look different, but the quality of the team won't be that different. I want to ask you, obviously, South Africa, Italy is our game for the weekend. But which of the other games that you think is worth watching and will keep you up at night?
This weekend's an interesting one. I think I'm not going to spend a lot of time watching too much rugby. Our game is the highlight. Absolutely, it's going to be great to play in Italy against Italy. But I think the match for both teams that I feel have not found their feet and their rhythm and momentum yet is England, New Zealand. That is the game to watch besides the Springboks this weekend. The rest, it's great to see Japan again playing, and Fiji, those countries. And I think the guys that are really deep in the dumps currently is Wales. And you cannot fix it in a test series like this.
There is one game which we've lost over, Eugene, which I just want to return to quickly. That's Ireland, Australia. 2 teams that coming off bad losses, and they have a real prospect of their year-end campaign unraveling at a great rate or not. So I think that is the big thing for me is New Zealand, England. That's a big game for me. And then Australia, Ireland, I might stay up for that one because that's a very important game in terms of their campaigns. But Eugene, I also want to thank you. I mean, as always, it's such a pleasure working with you, and I learn everything. Every time I learn something new.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. I love what we're doing, and I hope the people also enjoy it. I think it's important that there's also other views on the game. And at the end of the day, it's just a game, and it's so unreal to see the support in the world that the Springboks have. And thanks for that, and have a great day.